Alright Guardians, Grandmasters start this week, and I know that all of you Warlocks out there are going to be in need of a strong and reliable build to claim those Conqueror titles. I'm Profane, and today we are checking out one of the best and strongest Solar Warlock builds that you can use in Grandmaster Nightfalls this season. This build is perfect for solo gameplay and small group activities. You'll have all the power that you'll need to crush any foe that stands in your way, along with top-tier survivability, which makes this a prime choice when it comes to Grandmasters. This build features the Sunbracers, an exotic I'm sure you've heard of. This exotic extends the uptime of your solar grenades, and when you defeat a combatant with a charged melee, you'll receive a 5-second window in which you can continuously throw grenades. This permits you to throw between 5 and 7 high-powered solar grenades during this 5 seconds. As soon as the 5 seconds is over, this can be re-triggered as soon as you have charged melee energy, which is something that we'll have an abundance of thanks to how we have our solar subclass, our seasonal artifact, and armor mods set up. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and take a look at this solar class tree and see what benefits it provides us. Since we're using Ember of Resolve, every time an enemy is defeated by a grenade, you will receive an instant surge of 60 health points, which is going to come in handy when those enemies hit you a lot harder, since we want to regain our melee energy as quickly as possible. We are also using Ember of Searing, which is going to grant bonus melee energy when scorching enemies. This starts as an 8% return, but will provide as much as 25% when scorching higher level combatants. This also creates a fire sprite, which will provide 12.5% grenade energy instantly. We're also using Ember of Ashes, which is going to apply additional stacks of Scorch to enemies, which will in turn help get our melee energy back much quicker. Orb generation is going to be extremely beneficial when taking on Grandmaster Nightfalls. Not only does it help us, but it will help our teammates as well. So with that in mind, we are using Ember of Wonder, which will create orbs after defeating multiple enemies with ignitions. This will help get supers charged faster, and it's going to proc multiple armor mods that we'll discuss later on. We are using the Touch of Flame aspect, which adds lava effects to our solar grenades, and it increases their duration by an additional 2 seconds. We're using Heat Rises, which is going to provide a few different things. First off, while in the air, we can still fire weapons, use our melee, and throw grenades without our glide getting interrupted. Secondly, we can now consume our grenade energy, which will grant an instant burst of healing that affects us and teammates, providing a total of 120 points of health. Once Heat Rises has been activated, you can extend its time with each final blow, and every time you defeat an enemy while you are airborne, you will receive additional melee energy. This ranges between 20 and 50% energy based on each enemy's rank. What can be especially beneficial about Heat Rises is that you don't have to be floating around in the air in order to receive the benefits. You can get all of the benefits of Heat Rises by just simply bunny hopping around. This way you can get the rapid regeneration of your melee energy without overly exposing yourself. This way you can continuously trigger the Sunbracers, having a never-ending stream of grenades. When it comes to our choice in melee options, the Incendiary Snap is stronger and more reliable, but it's only good against enemies who are close. So depending on what Grandmaster that you're in, you may want to put on Celestial Fire for the increased range. Grandmaster enemies are tougher, so you won't always have the benefit of striking a weak red bar enemy to get the Sunbracers to proc. What I would recommend doing when facing these tougher enemies is to weaken them with your weapons, and then finish them off with your charged melee. Now that we've addressed our subclass choices, let's talk about the new seasonal artifact, because there's quite a few really good mods that are going to help out this season. There's several anti-champion mods like Barrier Bows, Overload Hand Cannons, and Overload Heavy Machine Guns, but you'll need to make sure that you adjust these each and every week based on what champions that Grandmaster includes. There's a heavy focus towards elemental orbs this season, so we are using the Solar Elemental Orbs mod, which is going to create a solar elemental orb whenever we defeat enemies with solar weapons. This solar orb will scorch enemies, and since we are using communal pickups, whenever an ally picks up or destroys one of these orbs, will receive a ×3 solar weapon surge, which will last for 10 seconds. And by using refreshing pickups, we'll even get energy granted to the least charged ability whenever an orb is thrown. We're also using Elemental Fury, which is going to cause stunned enemies to take additional damage from any ability and Elemental Orb. We're using Monochromatic Maestro, which is going to grant our solar weapons a 10% increase in damage when we strike an enemy with any ability, and it will provide 10% additional damage to abilities after striking an enemy with any solar weapon. The last artifact mod that we're using is Rapid Fire Ranger. This mod provides a 15% weakening effect against any enemy after consecutive precision hits. Those enemies do have to be 45 meters away for the weakening effects to kick in, but once they have, those enemies will be more susceptible to any damage from you or allies. With the seasonal artifact out of the way, let's talk about our choice in armor and armor mods. When putting together the armor for this build, you'll want to focus towards resilience and recovery. This way you can take less damage and your health will start coming back quicker. Even though this is a grenade focused build, we are going to focus towards strength before discipline, because it is our charged melee that's going to trigger Sunbracers. As I mentioned earlier, orb generation is going to be crucial. It will help you and allies get supers quicker, and it's going to trigger several armor mods, like Invigoration, which provides melee energy when collecting orbs, Better Already, which provides health when picking up orbs, and there's also Absolution, which grants a small amount of energy to all of your abilities when you collect an orb. Even though we're using Ember of Wonder, we're also going to be using a Helmet Siphon mod and the Firepower mod. This way we'll create additional orbs. Having an abundance of Rift energy while in Grandmasters is going to help keep you and your teammates safe. And thanks to the use of Bolstering Detonation, whenever we strike an enemy with a grenade, we'll get an extra 20% class ability energy. When it comes to your chest armor, I would recommend using all resistance mods. This way you can protect yourself, reduce the damage that you take, improving your survivability. Emergency Reinforcement is a great chest mod to use that's going to provide you with extra resilience when you become critically wounded. So between our armor mods, the seasonal artifact, and our solar class tree, we'll have rapid regeneration of all of our abilities, we'll be able to throw an endless supply of grenades, and we'll have a plethora of options to provide both us and allies with top-notch healing. And then all that's left is deciding on what weapons to take in, which is going to be entirely based on which Grandmaster you're entering into. With that in mind, let's talk about some of the best options that you'll have to take down champions and everything else this season. With champions in mind, there's a ton of solid exotics that come preloaded with anti-champion abilities. The Revision Zero, the Wishender, the Lament, Arbalest, and Ariana's Vow are all pre-equipped to handle barrier champions. La Monarch, Wicked Implement, Thunderlord, and Divinity for the Overloads, and Devil's Ruin, Bastion, Malfeasance, and Leviathan's Breath for those Unstoppables. With bows getting anti-barrier functions this season, the Verkless Curve, Strident Whistle, Taiku's Divination, and Trinity Ghoul will all be great choices as well. Hand cannons and heavy machine guns both get the nod towards overloads this season, while fusion rifles and scouts get Unstoppables, so you'll ultimately have a lot of options when it comes to anti-champion duties. With the Eremite and the Abyss Defiant both offering Heal Clip as new weapon trait options, both of these legendary weapons are going to be great options to include in your weapon loadouts this season. The most important aspect will be to match your weapon loadouts to whatever the weekly weapon surges are, along with the shield types that your enemies are going to be using. So before you just jump into any of the Grandmasters this season, be sure that you're checking out the modifiers first. And with that being said, I wish you all the best of luck throughout this season. Let me know your thoughts on this season's Grandmasters, and whether you find them more difficult than in previous seasons. Thank you as always for checking out today's video. I hope that it brings you help and that you have enjoyed. If so, then please be sure to hit that like button below, along with the subscribe button if you're new. Both are greatly appreciated and both really do help support the channel. And until next time, Guardians, this has been Profane, wishing you all some happy hunting.